Hi everyone, hope you're keeping well. This video is going to be looking mainly at the immune system, but I just want to distinguish between our non-specific defences and our immune system. So our non-specific defences, these are mainly external defences acting as our first line of defence against pathogens by preventing them from getting into our body in the first place. Our immune system, however, is aiming to destroy the pathogens when they get inside our body. So our white blood cells are the main part of our immune system, and because this is happening within our body, it's our internal defence. There are different ways in which white blood cells can act in order to destroy pathogens. We're going to focus on that later on, but I just want to quickly run through some of those non-specific defences which are helping to stop the pathogens getting in our bodies in the first place. You do have all the information that you need in order to fill in the worksheet to annotate the diagram. I just want to talk a bit about those just very briefly to begin with. So scabs are the first line of defence we're going to look at. So this is a physical defence formed when our platelets stick together to form a blood clot. Scabs are beneficial in two forms, in that they stop blood from escaping, so stopping you from continuously bleeding, but also they stop any bacteria, any pathogens that could be harmful to you from getting directly into that bloodstream. Therefore protecting you against those pathogens. Your tears and eyelashes are again another barrier method protecting you from pathogens, mainly protecting the eye from infection. So your eyelashes are able to trap any dirt and microorganisms from getting into the eye and therefore causing infection. But also your tears, because of their salt concentration, they're able to dry up any microorganisms. But also as your eyes water or as you cry, that washes out any harmful microorganisms that could enter your eye and therefore helps keep it all nice and clean. Your stomach contains acid, hydrochloric acid, and whilst it doesn't harm our cells, any microorganisms that get into your stomach can be destroyed using this hydrochloric acid, as it breaks down the cell walls and cell membranes and therefore is able to destroy those pathogens, stopping them from harming you. The hairs in your nose, these in conjunction with the mucus that's in your nose, they trap large particles, which can then easily be removed from your nose by blowing your nose. Some mucus does get swallowed, but that then ends up in your stomach, where it can be dealt with by the stomach acid. As you breathe in air through your nose, you're breathing in all the particles that are in the air. This includes things such as soot when you're in high polluted areas, and what you might notice there is when you then blow your nose after being in a high polluted area, that actually it's quite black, the mucus that is in the tissue, and that's because of the large amount of soot that has been inhaled through your nose, but the hairs and the mucus in your nose have trapped those from going any further into your body. Your skin, another physical barrier, stopping microorganisms from getting in. Because they can't get through your skin, that means that the microorganisms and pathogens end up actually staying on the skin. But as our skin is quite good, it sheds as it dies with age. You get dead skin quite a lot. That means that you're able to get rid of those microorganisms and pathogens that are lying on that skin before they are around for too long. Cilia are a specially adapted type of cell. So you looked at specialised cells earlier on in the year. And as you'll see, there are the black adaptations, which are your hair-like projections of the cell. And what these do is they help sweep mucus that's in your trachea up to the back of your throat, which can then be swallowed and then dealt with in the stomach, with the stomach acid. However, what you can also see here is this green cell which produces a lot of mucus, and what we already know about mucus is that that can help trap the microorganisms and large particles that are in your windpipe to then be swept away by the cilia. Okay, we're going to move on to the main focus of the video now, which is on our immune system. Many of you will already be aware that white blood cells are a crucial part of our immune system. These are the cells in our body which help defend us against pathogens once they are inside our body. So they do this in a number of ways, but there are actually two types of white blood cells, and the way in which our white blood cells defend against pathogens depends on what type of white blood cell we're talking about. So you'll see on my page I've already drawn them out. So we've got two different white blood cells. Now, we looked at cells topic at the start of the year, and we talked about specialised cells, and specialised cells, they're adapted in order to suit their function. And so what you should notice with these two cells is that they have very different nucleuses. So this white blood cell has a very large nucleus, whereas this white blood cell has quite a distorted nucleus. And this adaptation allows them to carry out their function in the specific way in which they defend against pathogens. So we're going to look at the one on the right to start with, and this is what is called a phagocyte. So phagocytes are the ones with the distorted nucleus. Just going to draw a line down my page so I don't take up the other part of the space. And so what our phagocytes do is, by having this distorted nucleus, they are able to ingest the pathogen, which they're then able to destroy into smaller products which are harmless. Now, one of the key points here is that our phagocytes are non-specific. So they will do this with any type of pathogen. And what happens is the phagocyte, it surrounds the pathogen and engulfs it and breaks it down into those smaller products, those harmless products they can then release back out of that phagocyte. Now turning to our second white blood cell on the right with our larger nucleus. Now, this one is called a lymphocyte. And it can do two things. So, the first thing we're going to look at is the antibody production. So, our white blood cell and our pathogen. So our pathogen has what's called antigens around the edge, and these are chemical markers of the pathogen. So they're a type of protein, they're in a specific shape though, so here I've used triangles. They should all be identical triangles, so just excuse my bad drawing. And what our antibodies are is the complementary shape. And so what happens is our white blood cells, they release these antibodies and they are able to fit around the antigen of the pathogen. So just want to label this before I move on to talk about how they destroy the pathogens. So antigen is our triangle, whereas our antibody is that Y shape from the lymphocytes. Easy way to remember which one antibody is and which one antigen is if we look at the makeup of the word. Here we've got body. It's produced by cells of our body. Whereas our antigen, that gen part, it's a part of the pathogen. So here we've got gen in both words, and here it's to do with the body. So that's an easy way to remember the difference between antibody and antigen. So the ways in which our antibodies can destroy our pathogens is they can split open the membrane of the pathogen. They can make it easier for the phagocytes to find them. Phagocytes to find the pathogens. And they can also make the pathogens stick together. And therefore then making it easier again for the phagocytes to find them and engulf them in order to destroy them. Now, the key bit to note here is that our antibody is specific to the shape of the antigen. So a different pathogen would have a different antigen. So our antigen is unique to the pathogen. And so we are going to need a specific lymphocyte with the specific antibody that matches the pathogen, the pathogen's antigen. Okay, so our antigens are specific to the pathogens, and therefore our antibodies are specific to our antigens, and therefore we need our lymphocytes to have those specific antibodies to counteract specific pathogens. But each lymphocyte only makes one type of antibody. And so that means that when a new pathogen is encountered, it's going to take time in order for the lymphocyte to make the correct antibody. And so this is why you then become sick whilst the lymphocyte finds the correct antibody to match the antigen of the pathogen. However, what our lymphocytes do is that once they have made this antibody they make copies of themselves, so of the entire cell, and these are what are then referred to as memory cells. So memory cells are copies of the lymphocytes, and we keep a number of these in our bloodstream. So we always then have a constant level of these specific lymphocytes with these specific antibodies to counteract pathogens that we've met before. So this means that when a pathogen you've encountered before is met again, you're then already having those antibodies ready to fight off the pathogen, and so you don't have to wait that amount of time for your lymphocyte to find the correct antibody. You already have the ability to make that specific antibody, and so this is where immunity comes into play. So when a pathogen that is known to the body is re-encountered, the antibodies are quickly made as they've been made before, and this means that our pathogen is quickly destroyed so you don't really become ill, as you have immunity to the pathogen. So another thing which is common for these lymphocytes to produce is antitoxins. So antitoxin production is to counteract toxins produced by pathogens. So when we looked at types of pathogens, bacteria are a type of pathogen which quite often produce toxins. So here we've got our white blood cell and our pathogen. So our pathogen releases toxins, and our white blood cell, our lymphocyte, they release antitoxins, which again are specific to the toxin that's been released by the pathogen. So just label again toxin and our antitoxin, and our antitoxin is specific to the toxin released by the pathogen. Where we've got our toxin and our antitoxin being encountered, so this specific shape again, because they're proteins again, the toxins aren't bound to the pathogen, and that means that your antitoxins aren't then bound to the pathogen either. So what happens instead is you're neutralising the effect of the toxin, but you're actually not destroying the pathogen itself. You're stopping the part that's making you sick, the toxin, but the pathogen is still existing. So the toxin is not bound to the pathogen, and so our antitoxin doesn't affect the pathogen. But what it does do is that antitoxin neutralizes the effect of the toxins so that you don't feel ill, that the pathogen is not destroyed by the antitoxins. But although the antitoxins don't destroy the pathogens, these white blood cells, their effects can happen together. So yes, antitoxins might be attacking the pathogens, but also you might have some antigens attacking, some antibodies, attacking the antigens of your pathogen. And so the combination of those effects will ultimately be that defence against this disease. So combining the effects of the antibodies and the antitoxins.